Bay Radio International, and pleased to welcome Romy back for our Villa Lux property update. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
I'm good, thanks. And you brought Sandie with you from Javea Rentals. Good to see you, Sandie.
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
We don't see you very often these days because you're so busy running about. You used to see you around in the office a lot, but you do a lot more out of the office these days.
Yeah, the rental market is just booming in Javea. There's just so many clients here at the moment. It's really, really busy.
I know there's a team back at the office, obviously, in support for you as well. But we wanted today to find out a little bit more about renting properties in Spain. If I own a property, how I go about that and what I need, really. And I suppose that's the best way to start in Spain, isn't it, with the paperwork? What are the documents that a tenant needs or a person needs to rent out a property in Spain?
Yeah, I mean, Spain, it's well known for, obviously, you need a lot of paperwork. A lot of paperwork needs to be done. But I think especially when it comes to rentals, Sandie, like you're dealing a lot with owners, people that own a property in Javea, and they might think about renting it out. Obviously, what is very important is that you have a good idea of what a potential tenant looks like and what their profile is. So, like, what is that? Let's say, what's the process a little bit from the moment you find a tenant up until signing the rental contract?
Well, first of all, obviously, we find out with the tenant what their requirements are, if they've got pets or they've got children, the type of property they want to be, whether they want to be near schools or, the location is really important. So then we source down exactly where they want to be. We send out emails of all the property. The good thing about on our website is we have virtual tours. So before they even arrive here, they often can view a property completely online, virtually, and then when they come here, we then take them out and show them.
A lot of business started like that in the pandemic, didn't it, where it was the only way to show people property, but it's almost taken over as that first part of the process now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, we know about the quality of the properties that we see through the the Villa Lux sales side of things, and the same team manage all of that for Javea Rentals, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's a good thing that we're having, because obviously we deal with people that purchase a property here in Javea, and what you see very often is people buy it and obviously they cannot stay here or be here all year round. So what is a good option, of course, is to rent a property out. And because we have that in-house, like there's a lot of collaboration. We can also help the person that buys a property to then rent it out. So that's a really good kind of synergy we create there. And it's just it's just very easy, isn't it, to have that all on one.
Are there standard, we were talking about paperwork there, are there standard tenancy agreements?
There are two types of tenancy agreements. So you have a seasonal agreement. So these are the ideal for people that just want to be here for the winter. So they may want to just come for 2 months, 3 months. Or we have clients where they want to try before they buy. So they may put their children into school, arrive in September and stay till the end of May or June.
So a longer term version.
Yeah, but that still comes under a seasonal contract. Then you have the long-term contract,
right,
which is a contract of 12 months minimum, but they have the flexibility to stay there longer if both in agreement to stay longer than the 12 months. They can stay up to 5 years.
Okay. Do you find that you've got quite a lot of long-term tenants these days? I think since COVID again, things have changed, haven't they?
Well, what's happened is with people working remotely, we have far more international clients renting property long-term. And they work remotely, or they fly back and forth. They leave their females and wives here to enjoy the sunshine with their children. So, yeah, you've got lots of different types of clientele that rent.
You mentioned about the market booming. What's the availability for properties at the moment?
It is a little bit tough at the moment, because what's happening are a lot of the tenants that are previously in their contracts are not moving. So that's why we're here today, because we urgently need more property.
Right, so we're looking for people who might be listening that have been thinking about renting and perhaps not done it yet.
Yeah.
Okay, how straightforward is that? I want to know about a contract. If I'm about to rent my property, how safe am I, basically? I think is what people want to know.
You're very safe, because obviously we find out what the owner's needs are. Some owners want to come and use the property themselves. So this is where a seasonal rental will work for them. So they have have the flexibility to be able to use the property and also gain an income. Then we have a different type of client that does it perhaps for investment, and they just want to walk away and have a company come along and completely manage it for them. We do offer a complete management service. So if the owners want to remain anonymous, this is what we can do for them.
So everything goes through Javea Rentals, and nobody needs to worry about any.
Nobody needs
aspects.
to know actually who they're renting
Really,
from.
Okay, that's great.
It's literally, we handle everything. We have in-house facilities for maintenance. If there's anything goes wrong in the house, we've got the teams to able to do and fix things and do things like that.
Yeah,
as
of
well.
course. I mean, actually, sometimes it might be quite good to have that, even if you are renting a property out and using it for part of the year, because something can go wrong at any time. And if you don't live here all the time, it can be difficult to find the right person to do the right thing in the right time frame.
Well, also the thing is cost-wise, because often where it's in-house, the cost to actually do any repairs is reasonable. So we don't make any money on any repair costs at all. It's just purely just fixing things very quickly for the tenant.
It's about finding that right person as well, because obviously with the years of experience you have, then the people that you use, you're
Yes.
quite comfortable with, so therefore
they're trustworthy.
So can your clients.
Yes.
Excellent. So how do you help people if they come to you and say, I want to manage my flat or manage my apartment? Part of the service is getting the photos done, the videos, putting everything up on the social media?
Yeah, what we do is that we go, it takes quite some time, but we have to do professional photographs, videos. We move things around in the house sometimes because it's not quite laid out properly.
We've talked about that before, Romy, haven't we? Because it's about making the property look right for the people that might want to move into it. Because the way we might have our property and the way we have things laid out isn't always the way that sells it in that respect.
I mean, I think especially if you think about renting a property, you have to depersonalize it, because no one wants to move into a property with family photos in the wall. And I mean, it's nice, of course, but it's now at least temporarily. It's their home, and that already you need to show that in the photos, of course, so that when people see it, that they're like, I could live there for a certain amount of time, and I could feel comfortable there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange word, isn't it? You want somebody to come and rent your home, and we're talking about depersonalising it. I couldn't think of the right word that you used before, but it is about just making it look right for somebody and not look like someone else's home.
That's correct. I mean, when a client comes along, often they will sometimes ask the owner, could something be removed? And obviously we'll speak with the owner, and if this is possible, then it can be arranged. So we can make it feel more homely for the tenant when they are moving.
I suppose that brings into another aspect of this is actually perhaps some people might have some furniture that they want to put in the property with them. And I've certainly experienced that in my time here in Spain. Most properties seem to have pretty much everything you'll need.
Yes, yeah. I mean, generally 99% of the properties in Spain are furnished.
Right, okay. Rent to buy or buy to let, Romy. You're dealing with the sales with Villalux, and part of the company is the Javea Rentals. So I guess that's, again, bringing everything in-house, everything's available. If somebody's looking to buy a property to rent, either as an investment or as a winter let, perhaps, that's a straightforward process then once you've got the sales done and through, that you can pass on?
Definitely. It is a straightforward process because we have everything in-house, so it's very easy. The moment someone buys a property, we can already light them up, in this case, of course, with Sandie, which is basically go automatically, and Sandie can tell them everything about the whole process and what she can mean to them. And something I was thinking about as well during this conversation, what's very interesting is a lot of times we're dealing with clients that buy a property and, they're thinking like, okay, well, let's just see how many times we can actually come to Javea. And in the end, 9 out of 10 times you see that they
manage it less than they could.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
what you get a lot of the time is that people are like, ooh, but I don't like the feeling of, having other people in my property while I'm not here. But actually, I think there's another important part about renting a property out, something that's actually positive, that's not highlighted enough sometimes, is that if you could choose between having your property empty for, let's say, 10 months out of 12, a year, or you could have someone in for a winter let, it's definitely always better to have someone in there, obviously when the right checks are done, of course. Because they will actually maintain your property, and it's not really always good to have a property sit closed.
Yeah, but there are a number of possible issues there. We've talked about the occupants before. The fact that there has been that problem with squatters, but also there are laws that are coming in to try and alleviate that situation. But there's also, say, perhaps something goes wrong, because I think we've all probably at one time or another had a washing machine leak. But imagine if you're not there for about 6 months. Hopefully somebody else in the block might realise. But
it's also things like if you had the water meters running, or the things like often things
like the sprinkler or the garden hose,
gardener or something
like that. Yeah.
It is far better to have the house aired with windows open and someone living it, the heating on, than leaving it shut up and you don't use it, and you're not gaining any financial income from the property at all, and your property is being really well maintained by having tenants in it.
It certainly makes, and of course, like we said, there are the options, aren't there, so that people can choose which one suits and fits them. Am I clear on the fact that if I buy a property, I've probably got all the paperwork that I need to be able to pass it on to be rented out, like, NIE, all the rest of it?
I mean, yes. This is, of course, a big thing that, we've been talking about it more often on this radio show, the new law in the Valencian community from last August, where they basically said everything that you rent out for more than 10 days or longer, let's put it like that, is not going to be seen as a holiday let anymore. That's a seasonal rental, which means that if you own a villa or an apartment and you're renting it out for more than 10 days, that you don't need a tourist license. So with the paperwork you have after a purchase, you're fine. You just make a contract. Sandie knows a lot more about this as well, but you just make a contract between you and your tenant, or of course, Sandie, you would assist in that.
And what we do as well to reassure the owners is we do very good background checks. So whether they are working people, then we would want to see their salaries, their bank statements. This obviously is all confidential. It stays with us. And then if there's somebody that's retired, we like to see that they've got a pension. So we do proper...
They have to provide proper income.
They have to provide proper... Which this is another thing for the owners, is that not only are we sourcing them a good tenant, it's really important. I've been doing the job 25 years, and I've never had really bad experiences because of the vetting service that we do.
It's all important, isn't it? I think that's one of the main issues that people worry about, is the fact that, am I going to be all right with this? Am I, if anything goes wrong, what can I do? Am I covered?
Yeah.
And if I need to get out of it, can I get out of it? Okay. Is it that straightforward?
Yeah, what we do is that there is always a really quite high amount of security. The security depends obviously on the property. So if a property is furnished to a really high standard, then the owners will ask for a higher security deposit, down to just against the house and some against the furniture. So they have reassurance of a substantial amount of money that covers them if obviously there was a problem. But in my experience, I've not had any problems to date.
That's good to hear. What about insurance? How does that work? Is it different parts are insured?
Yeah, the owners have their own contents and their own property insurance against their property. So that remains the same. But the tenant has to take out insurance for his own personal property, or if he was to have any problems within the villa, a trip or a fall, then that cannot be claimed against the owner's insurance.
That's good to know. And what about, is it the same, I would say, generally as northern parts of Europe? I'm just saying, sort of, just for instance, the Netherlands, Germany, UK. If the boiler goes wrong, it's the landlord that sorts it out. All of those things that we would expect.
Yeah, the contract is pretty tight. There's lots of terms in it, which obviously is done in Spanish and in English, so everybody can read, those sort of languages. And it has all the clauses in it. It's pretty thorough.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that it's been 20, 25 years since Javea Rentals have been running. What are the major changes that you've seen between now and then?
The difference is media. And before, it was very, very different. You would send a letter and a cheque. And now it's a transfer. So, yeah, and it's all done by email, everything. And sometimes we do actually rent villas without even people being here. We've done quite a few where people have just booked it through the virtual tour. They've not even come into Spain and they've reserved a villa.
Okay. Is there any extra paperwork people perhaps might need to come to Spain to, say, go into a winter let? Or can you just, if you're European Union, I suppose that's straightforward. What about people from UK? We know about the 180 days, but is there any other paperwork that say perhaps somebody from a third country? We know we have quite a lot of listeners in the USA as well that they might need if they were going to come here to.
I mean, you
Spain.
you need to speak to somebody regarding all your paperwork of whichever country you come from. You might need visas or different types of paperwork, but generally everybody can come to Spain and rent a property. You just need to get the right paperwork to do that.
All right, we want to know your favourite story since you came to Spain to do with holiday rentals, long-term villa rentals, or even indeed, with Villa Lux and the property sales. I'm giving you an option now. You can choose any of those.
Well,
What's your favourite story? Come on, I'm sure you tell people this when you're out and about. Go on.
Well, I think they're all too blue, to be fair. I can't say anything.
It's confidential.
It's a bit confidential, yeah.
I can't believe we're not going to get any gossip.
No,
I thought we might.
No, it's completely private. Whatever goes on in someone's villa is down to them. I'm not spilling anything.
Thank you very much for coming to speak to us. I know you're a little bit nervous today, but see, I told you it's just like having a chat in the
I am
bar.
a bit nervous.
We'll get you a beer now, don't worry.
Or a cava.
Yeah.
And as always, it's the same number to get in touch with Sandie and the team at Javea Rentals or at Villa Lux for the properties. Then it is Max or Romy on 965 794 059. That's 965 794 059. And actually, you probably won't get them because they're quite famous now. And generally, someone else will be on the phone taking, basically running their diaries for them. That's how it works these days, isn't it?
Yeah, we got Emma at the office.
Of
She's
course.
really, really good. So yeah, she will either us or she will pick up the phone, and we're there to help.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.